Welcome to yet another episode of Deconstructing Calvary Chapel. I am Leah, a former member of Calvary Chapel from California and Oregon, both in California and Oregon, from about 2001 to 2010. So I'm not always going to go into my personal story or talk about anyone who doesn't have a public following, like those people that a lot of the people I met when I was at Calvary Chapel, nor am I going to talk about any underage children who are or give their names or faces or anything. I need to protect those innocent. I have no ill will towards anyone that I knew at Calvary Chapel. I've worked through a lot of my own trauma, and I have a great love for those I knew there. I like to say reverse hate the sin, love the sinner. In that, reverse hate the bigotry, hate all the horrible things they're doing in the name of Jesus Christ, and love them, because that's what Jesus would do, right? And this week we are taking another deeper dive into Greg Laurie. There is so much more to harvest. Please take care of yourself, as there are so many accounts in the video of sexual assault, abuse, and violence against young children. So if you need to sit this one out, I totally understand. When I wrote the script and did the research for the last episode, there were only two accusers of Paul Havsgaard. That of Marian Barbu, who at the time that he reported was 33, and Mihai-Constantin Petcu, at the time 40. But since then, more potential victims have come forward and filed lawsuits against Havsgaard and Harvest Christian Fellowship for cover-up and negligence. As of December 2025, 12 different lawsuits filed by 12 different men were filed against Paul Havsgaard, Harvest Christian Fellowship, Greg Laurie, and two other pastors who worked for the church. These 12 men state that they were molested repeatedly while at the Romanian orphanage, with one describing the place as a madhouse run by a sadistic pedophile. While HCF calls this a form of extortion and attention getting, they insist that they have attempted to contact and work with the celebrity attorney at McAllister Oliveris, a New York and London-based firm, but they haven't gotten any response back, they claim. The allegations, they shock one's conscience, the church said in a statement emailed to multiple media outlets. We have attempted in good faith to engage with a lawyer, but the lawsuit represents only the latest demand, and in this case, many tens of millions of dollars. Okay? The 12 lawsuits state that damages in amounts to be established at trial will include punitive damages and compensation for ongoing and severe mental anguish. One of the men, George Adrian Vasile, said he was first touched by Havsgaard when he was 8 years old, forcibly massaging his genitals and digitally harming him. He said that Havsgaard would then reward him for remaining and staying silent. Again, Marian Barbu said that Havsgaard placed a pillow over his face to keep him silent while abusing him, with Barbu fearing he was going to die. As he grew, Barbu experienced increasing desires to unalive himself, even making attempts several times in several different ways. Alexandru Badaluta has visible scars on his arms from his attempts. He claims Havsgaard would strip, spank, and abuse him multiple times a day from the time he was 12 until he was 16. Razvan Gorga Nitu recalls his abuse being partnered with routine discipline, stating that he believed the sexual abuse against him was because he was bad. Then, in January 2026, 7 women filed lawsuits against HCF, Greg Laurie, stating that they too had been harmed by Paul Havsgaard. Christina Bianca Popescu states that she was sexually abused by Havsgaard from 1998 to 2002 from the ages of 10 to 15 years old. Petcu also claimed that Havsgaard would strip and spank her and would not intervene when boys at the orphanage also began assaulting and raping her. In the decade between 1998 and 2008, when defendants operated the Harvest homes in Romania, Havsgaard savagely molested and terrorized scores of Romanian children, including the plaintiff, Petcu, a child in his custody and care, the court documents state. It also states Harvest Christian Fellowship had received reports about Havsgaard's alleged abuse of children starting in 1999. These reports came from various sources, including the children, Romanian employees of the homes, volunteers who traveled to the homes from California, the wife of one of Harvest pastors, and from Harvest pastors themselves. Despite these reports, the lawsuit claims that Harvest and its leadership turned a blind eye, continuing to employ and pay Havsgaard. The lawsuit also alleges that the abuse reports had grown so notorious by 2004 that Harvest authorized an inspection. The result of the inspection, according to the lawsuit, showed conclusive evidence that Havsgaard was sexually abusing children and misappropriating money, both on a shocking scale. Nevertheless, Harvest did not remove Havsgaard at that point, according to the court filing. Laurie instead engineered a soft landing. He let Havsgaard stay in charge, free to molest and rape, while Laurie slowly closed the money spigot, until the Romanian homes finally withered to nothing 4 years later, the lawsuit claims. The lawsuit is seeking actions against Harvest and Laurie for negligence, intentional infliction of emotional distress, negligent supervision and retention of Havsgaard, civil conspiracy to violate California laws, and violations of federal laws against human trafficking and illicit sexual conduct. After the first lawsuit was filed in September 2025, Harvest Christian Fellowship issued a statement stating in part, "The allegations in the lawsuit shock one's conscience as they shocked ours. The allegations are serious and disturbing, but the target here should be the alleged perpetrator, not our church. This misplaced lawsuit wrongly targets Harvest and our pastor as a form of financial extortion. It does not seek the truth, nor does it seek to stop the purported wrongdoer." In addition, the complaint also contains new allegations that 2 former pastors at Harvest Christian Fellowship engaged in sexual misconduct with female staff members. By December, 12 separate lawsuits were in the works. On March 6, the law firm McAllister Oliveras filed a consolidated complaint in U.S. federal court in California. It combines 22 lawsuits by men and women who allege that Havsgaard sexually abused them at the orphanage. The consolidated complaint also alleges that Harvest and its celebrity pastor Greg Laurie operated a sophisticated cover-up machine using internal surveillance, financial payoffs, and purged records to hide child sexual abuse in its international operations. To support claims about an institutional cover-up, the lawsuit references 2 former Harvest pastors who were quietly fired in 2021 and 2022 amid allegations of sexual misconduct with church employees. Previously, Harvest said allegations of child abuse by Havsgaard are serious and disturbing, but that suing the church amounts to a misplaced legal action. Harvest also claimed it was a target of financial extortion by an aggressive celebrity attorney. Although Harvest supported consolidation of the lawsuits, the church indicated it plans to argue that the case should be tried in Romania, not in the United States. From the Rory's report on March 9th, 2026. Senior Pastor Greg Laurie didn't say why 2 top leaders at his Riverside, California church left suddenly in the early 2020s. No one acknowledged Pastors Jeff Lacine and Brad Ormond's absences to the 15,000 people at Harvest Christian Fellowship's 3 Sunday services, even though the pair had overseen the church's in-person pastoral ministry. Instead, online bios, teaching videos, and Facebook photos quietly disappeared. Some church staffers furtively tried to piece together facts, but when they asked questions, church leaders reportedly scolded them for gossiping and sternly warned volunteers not to talk about it. But the hushed-up stories tumbled into public view last Friday in a 201-page federal court filing in an ongoing lawsuit against Lori and Harvest. The March 6 filing consolidated the 23 lawsuits filed by survivors of alleged childhood sexual abuse by another former Harvest pastor, Paul Havsgaard. As repeated previously by the Roy's report, the men and women who grew up in a church-funded homes in Romania accused Lori and Harvest of covering up years of horrific sexual abuse. McAllister Oliveris, the law firm suing Harvest and Lori, claims Lassine and Ormond both engaged in sexual misconduct with women who worked on staff. But when church leaders learned of the pastor's misconduct, they covered it up, demonstrating a pattern of strategic concealment, the filing states. The church even reportedly paid Lassine $4 million in exchange for a non-disclosure agreement. So, thank you and bravo for watching to the very end of this. Please share this story out so that it will not be buried, as Calvary Chapel has done with so many other similar allegations and truths throughout the years. Thank you, and take very good care of yourself.